Shabbat Shalom. We'll begin our service on page 24 with Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharei, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem LaShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. This is always the Shabbat that feels like it came after the longest week of the year or the briefest week of the year. Hope everybody had a lovely and fun Carnival and Mardi Gras season, staying safe and enjoying time with those you love the most. A couple of weeks ago, I was about to say, do you remember? Of course we remember the historic snowstorm, and then we all emerged on like a Thursday, and it sort of felt like a Sunday or a Monday or who knows what day of the week, and this is a little bit like that today also, the back half of Mardi Gras week. So we're glad to see all of you. Welcome to everybody who's joining us via live stream, and welcome, of course, to those of you who are here in our chapel, whether this is your spiritual home or if you happen to be visiting or checking us out. We're glad that you're here and you've landed to be with us on this really auspicious, typical but always atypical and unique Shabbat. If you're not familiar with our building, the way that you came in is the way that we'll exit if there's any reason to do so. If anybody needs restrooms or water or just a little bit of quiet time, you are welcome to find them right down the hallway here, or any of our ushers or members and board members who have name tags can help you out with that as well. You know what we do on Sunday? Change the clocks. I know, the morning is terrible, but the evening, it will still be a little bit brighter out than it is now, and we'll continue to add a little bit, about a minute, I think, of daylight each day. And then those candles become just a little bit, not superfluous, but a little bit of additional light for Shabbat to the light that is already up there shining on all of us. But before we change those clocks and lose an hour of sleep, but gain an hour of sunlight, I'd like to invite up Walter and Kay Levy and Julie Grant-Meyer to help light Shabbat candles. Walter and Kay Levy will come on up and help us light Shabbat candles. I got some bad intel. Page 2.
As their brightness Christ reminds us of the generations of Israel who have templed life, so may we, in our own day, be among those who temple life.
Amen. We'll lift up our Kiddush cup. On page 5, the blessing for Kiddush can be found, and if you're able, we invite you to please rise.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho, v'ahavahu v'ratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh bereshit, ki hu yom techila lemikra'e kodesh, zecher litziyat Mitzrayim. Kivanu v'acharta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim, ve'shabbat kodshecha, ve'ahava u'veratzon, hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh HaShabbat.
Amen. L'chaim. You can be seated.
We turn to page 12 as we welcome in Shabbat with psalm and song, beginning with Lefuna Ranana. Come, let's sing together. Almost there. There we go. Lekuneranena, 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 ladonai. Lekuneranena, 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 ladonai. Naria, naria, letzor yishenu nekan mapana betona. Naria, naria, letzor yishenu bizmirot naria lo. Lekuneranena, 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 ladonai. Lekuneranena, 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 ladonai. Bottom of page 14, Or Zarua. Or Zarua, Lat Tzadik, O Yisrael Simcha. Or Zarua, Lat Tzadik, O Yisrael Simcha. Or Zarua, Lat Tzadik, O Yisrael Simcha. O Yisrael Simcha. Or Zarua, Lat Tzadik, O Yisrael Simcha. O Yisrael Simcha. Or Zarua, Lat Tzadik, O Yisrael Simcha. Or Zarua, Lat Tzadik, O Yisrael Simcha. Bottom of 17, Romamu. Romamu, Adonai Eloheinu, Ve'ishtakavu, Le'akodo. Romamu, Adonai Eloheinu, Ve'ishtakavu, Le'akodo. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romamu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romamu. Adonai Eloheinu v'yishtachavu lehar kodsho.
I know there's a few of you here tonight. This is the time of our service. We'd like to invite up all of our littlest, youngest congregants to join us. Oh, but first, sorry, somebody skipped a line. His name is Rabbi Silverman, and we're going to go to Lecha Dodi on page 20. But you little ones, get ready.
Yadadadadai Lecha Dodi, Yadadadadai Likrat Kala, Yadadadadai Pnei Shabbat, Pnei Shabbat Mekabela, Yadadadadai Lecha Dodi, Yadadadadai Likrat Kala, Yadadadadai Pnei Shabbat, Pnei Shabbat Mekabela, Shamor V'Zachor, V'Dibur Echad, Ishmihanu El Hamyilcha, Adonai Echad, Ushmo Echad, L'Shemo Tiferet, Elitilai, Yadadadadai Lecha Dodi, Yadadadadai Likrat Kala, Yadadadadai Pnei Shabbat, Pnei Shabbat Mekabela, Likrat Shabbat, Lechu v'melcha, Imekor Abracha, Eros Mikedem, Nesuka, Sof Maaseh, B'machshavat Ilai, Yadadadadai Lecha Dodi, Yadadadadai Likrat Kala, Yadadadadai Pnei Shabbat, Pnei Shabbat Mekabela. Verse 5. Itoreri, Itoreri, Ivaore, Umi Ori, Ori, Shildaperi, Kevod Adonai, Alayim Niglai, Yadadadadai Lecha Dodi, Yadadadadai Likrat Kala, Yadadadadai Pnei Shabbat, Pnei Shabbat Mekabela, Ohi v'Shalom, Ateret Bala, Gam v'Simcha, Utzola, Toch Emunei, Am Segula, Boichala, Boichala, Yadadadadai Lecha Dodi, Yadadadadai Likrat Kala, Yadadadadai
Yadadai P'nei Shabbat, P'nei Shabbat Mekabela. You can be seated. To be fair, one line says lechu and the next line says lecha, so of course I mixed it up. But guess what time it is, folks? For real this time. If you are one of our littlest congregants, if you are not yet to the age of B'nai Mitzvah, so you're not quite 12 or 13, we'd like to invite you to come on up for your Shabbat blessing. I know a week filled with Mardi Gras parades, come on up. Filled with Mardi Gras parades and being off of school, it's hard to think that there was anything but really happy, exciting, awesome moments for you all. I don't know about for you all. But just like all the happiness reminds us that there might be things to prepare for in the week ahead, we know that any of those moments that weren't so awesome and wonderful, that there's another week waiting for us to try it all again. And if you happen to be above B'nai Mitzvah age and your parents or lovingest ones are in the room, do the rabbi a solid and snuggle up to them for a minute too. It's a nice thing to do, even if you're well into your 50s, 60s, or beyond. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I'll be right back. And if any of your little ones are going to be joining Layla for some Shabbat fun, Kihila Kedosha, just make sure one of the big people in your family or your group checks in with her first so they know where to find you, just in case they need you before dinner. We'll continue on page 28 with the Baruch Hu, our call to prayer. If you're able, we invite you to please rise. Page 30. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tsevaot is your name. We're 6 lines up in Hebrew on page 30.
Adonai Tzvaot Shemo El Chai V'Kayam Tamid Yimloch Aleinu Leolam Va'ed Baruch Atah Adonai Amari Barabim.
Page 32, we give thanks to God for the ever-giving and ever-growing gift of Torah, for its laws and its commandments, for its guidance, for its perils and pitfalls it teaches us to avoid, for the goodness it tells us and teaches us to seek out. We give thanks to God for this gift, unique to our people, yet something that we know applies to all people from everywhere.
Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael, Yaedai, Yaedai, Yaedai,
Page 34.
Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vahed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vahed. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
You can be seated. Page 36.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha ve'hayu advarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam, v'shivtecha b'veitecha, uvlechtecha v'derech, uvshoktecha uvkumecha, uvshartam leot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha, uchtabtam al mezuzot beitecha, uvisharecha, leman tizgeru, V'asitem et kol mitzvotai, v'yitem kedoshim le'Elohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem, Asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, liot lachem lelohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem.
Adonai Elohechem Emet.
Though our failings, personal and communal, may be many, and our faults may be great, it has always been the glory of the Jewish people to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark times and dark ages God's vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations of the world will be one and at peace. And then shall we rejoice just as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea. Page 40. Tehilot, Oseh, Bella, Nora, Tehilot, Oseh, Bella, Ikamocha, Ba'elim Adonai, Ikamocha, Nedar Bakodesh.
V'nemar ki b'd Adonai et Yaakov, u'galom yad chazak mimenu, baruch atah Adonai,
Gal Yisrael. Page 43. We read together the bottom of the page, really the middle of the page, but the bottom reading of the page, one of our many blessings for peace, for comfort, for this Shabbat. Together. Give us a place to rest, Adonai, our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, hapores sukat shalom, aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. Page 44.
Yismechu v'mahutecha, shomerei Shabbat, v'korei onei, am lekareshei sheli, kulam yismechu v'yitahu, mituvecha, v'hashvi,
The Amidah can be found on pages 46 and following. If you're able, we invite you to please rise.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agitehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov.
Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol, HaGibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei HaKol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot V'imahot, U'mevi Geula Livnei V'nehem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Bezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai, Mechayei HaKol, Atah Rab Lehoshia, Mashi Baruch U'Morid HaGashem, Mechakel Chayim B'Chesed, Mechayei HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Zomech Noflim Verofech Olim, Umatir Asurim, Umkayem Emunato, Lishem Ne'afar, Michamocha Bal Gevurot, Umido Mela, Melech Mehid Umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'neheman Atalech Hayot HaKol, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol. Atah Kadosh V'Shimcha Kadosh, U'Kadoshim B'Kol Yom Yalalucha Selah, Baruch Atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
You can be seated. Page 57, we read together the reading at the bottom of the page. You are with us in our prayer, our love, and our doubt, in our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still, clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch Atah Adonai, she'otcha levadcha v'yirah na'avod. Page 56.
Take
Take a few moments now for Tefillat Haleb, the prayers of our own hearts. Page 253. Take a moment during tonight's service, as we do with each of our services, to consider those in our lives, in our community, throughout the world who we may never know, who are in a state of some sort of incompleteness, whether it's their physical health, their emotional and spiritual well-being, or anything else. We keep them in our mind, in our hearts. We offer them this blessing of Misha Berach. Misha Berach Avotenu v'imotenu Abraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah hu yavarech et hacholim ha'ela. May the one who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal those who are ill. And if you are thinking of anyone now, we invite you, if you wish, to whisper their names. May the Blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for their health to be restored and their strength to be revived. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and spirit, and to that let us all say, Amen. Shabbat Shalom again, everybody. I want to give a spoiler. First and foremost, I'm going to be talking about Severance Season 2. So if you are not caught up on Severance Season 2, we'll see you at dinner. We'll see you in a few minutes, at least. Any fans of the show, by the way? Anybody watching? Yeah, it's really good. It's really good. It is so much beyond its simple sort of baseline first pass storyline. It is quite deep and quite spiritual. There are a lot of, this season, increasingly mysterious and sort of breathtaking and really heartbreaking storylines that have emerged and are developing. And one of my favorites, if you're watching the show, you might know, has to do with Innie Dylan G and the time that he spent getting to know his, or really his outy's wife, Gretchen. For those who don't know the basic concept of severance, here it is. It's about a group of people who have chosen to have a surgically implanted thing in their brain that lets them be severed. And what that means is that when they go to work and they descend an elevator, they have no knowledge, once they get down to their severed floor, of who they are outside or anything about their lives. Everything is contained right there in that floor, in that building. And similarly, when they leave and go back up to the surface and live their outside lives, they have no idea what it is that they do or who they interact with down on the severed floor. So to watch Innie Dylan G, Innies are the ones who work down on the severed floor, to watch him meet in a weird way, meet and get to know in a weird way, and to fall in love for the first time in an even weirder way with the woman he's been married to and has a family with, it's really something mind-bending. Especially because you can understand where he's coming from, having no knowledge of her, but those of you who watch know one of the most poignant parts of it is that she sort of falls in love with this other version of the person that she's been in love with and married to for so many years. What's even more heartbreaking is that you kind of get the sense that Gretchen is better suited for Innie Dylan, who has no knowledge of her, than outy Dylan, who sort of takes her and their life together for granted. And I've been thinking about that a lot this season of severance, and especially the last couple of days, because, and I kid you not, there's something sort of similar to that in this week's Torah portion. Yes, it is true. This week's Torah portion, which is known as Tetzaveh. First, a little fun fact about this week's Parsha, Tetzaveh. So we have 5 books of Torah, the first one being Genesis, in which Moses does not appear, because he's not born yet. But from Exodus, through Leviticus, through Numbers, through Deuteronomy, the entire time that we read those 4/5 of the Torah, Moses has been born and has grown and has been deemed a leader, and the entire Torah really kind of culminates with his death. And yet, this week's Parsha is the only Parsha in the entire last 4 books of the Torah which does not mention Moses by name at all. Granted, to be sure, God is speaking to Moses, that anybody who read last week's Parsha knows it's a continuation, but so many of us have been in services on Shabbat morning, and we've heard B'nai Mitzvah kids and everybody else say, Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe lemor, and God spoke to Moses saying, Moses, Moses, Moses. And then Moses said, and Moses responded. Moses' name does not appear at all in this week's Parsha. We don't see him speak. We don't hear him speak. It's all God's words being given to Moses to thus repeat to the people. But there's another name that is mentioned more in this Torah portion, specifically more times in this Torah portion, than in any other individual Torah portion, and that is Moses' brother, Aaron. Aaron, who is to be made, eventually we learn, into the Kohen Gadol, the high priest of the Jewish people. And as such, as the high priest and one of the priests whose progeny, whose sons will become the priests as well, these priests are to wear colorful and sacred garments that this week and next week and last week and a couple of weeks describe in great detail about how to craft them, how to weave them, and how to adorn them. It is Aaron's consistent presence in Tetzaveh, plus my thoughts about Innie versus outy Dylan, that made me realize that all things being equal, if you zoom out a little bit, Moses and Aaron are actually perfectly suited for the jobs that the other one has. What do I mean by that? From the very start, Moses tells God, pretty specifically, pretty directly, I am not the guy for this job. I don't speak so well. I'm not the right person to lead people. But you know who is? Aaron, my brother. He can speak to multitudes of people. He can stand up and command a crowd. In other words, Aaron would make a great prophet, from the Hebrew word navi, or the word bo, which means come here. Come here and listen to the words that God told me to repeat to you. Now, God has a workaround for this. That's that Aaron will still be the spokesman and do all the heavy lifting of public speaking, but Moses will remain, essentially, the prophet of God. Then comes around to Tetzaveh this week, and all of its surrounding parshiot. And God reveals the idea, the plan, that Aaron, like I said, and his descendants are to be priests, Kohanim. Kohanim, as we learn when we read more about what their jobs, what their roles, and their specific functions are, these are a class of people whose job is, for the most part, to be alone in a room, maybe with one or two other people, and God, in a nice, quiet place, just doing quiet but important work. That sounds like something that Moses is perfectly suited for and probably would prefer than to be in front of a crowd. This is classic God of Judaism moves right here. To do something where two individuals are on a clear trajectory towards something specific, towards something you would assume is the most natural way to go, and then to flip them in half, to turn over some norms and some conventions, or in this case, personalities and things that they prefer to do, to switch things up, and to therefore be able to reveal some sort of grander or maybe more hidden idea behind it. And it makes you think, what does it require of any person if they are supposed to fulfill a role or a task or a position of any kind which is so seemingly opposite of their essential selves? What does it say about personal attitudes or communal attitudes and understandings of duty, of obligation, of ethical living, when we choose to or to not take on something for which we are not sure that we're suited, or things that we are not certain we're even interested in? What lessons might we be able to draw from watching or reading about someone go through the process of reconciling their calls to action with their hesitancies to even start? I think it's natural, in whatever the situation may be, for any one of us to pick the easiest and perhaps the most frictionless or friction-free route to success and to completion. There are novels, there are TV shows, movies, books, plays galore, where someone who has the choice to do something hard but necessary instead opts to do the easy and the assumed and the recognizable. Think about some piece of literature or a performance where a character, a population might know, for example, and I know there's movies about this, but I was just thinking, an asteroid hurtling towards Earth, and everyone knowing that there is no way to stop it, and that everyone is going to perish on a certain day at a certain time. We would perhaps, I think likely, be completely unsurprised if we saw that population spend their remaining time reveling in whatever might bring them a little bit of pleasure and joy before the end. And on the other hand, what about a story where a person or a group of people who know exactly what a danger is that's lurking or coming towards them, where the threats come from people or from empires, they know where they're coming from, and they know that there are options to get out of it. You might expect this population of people to rise up, to fight back, to push back, even if their chances of success are nil or unlikely. It's natural to think about those situations, painting them as broadly as possible, and think, I know what a human being would do. I know what I would probably do. And yet, our Jewish tradition does not let us off so easily in either of those situations. And there are two particular moments in Jewish life, holidays, that I think highlight that. The first is Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, the culmination of a full 10 days of New Year's joy turned into deep spiritual introspection. There's so much liturgy. There's so much theology embedded and springing forth from Yom Kippur, based on the idea that nobody knows when or where or how our lives will come to an end, but that they will. Some of our liturgy and some of our tradition on Yom Kippur even says, if we are not worthy of the book of life this year, that by the end of this day of Yom Kippur, when the gates close, we'll just be on the outside, meaning our time will have expired. And as such, a newcomer to Jewish life might expect that the day of Yom Kippur would be filled with indulgence or with partying, with revelry. They might assume that Yom Kippur is the perfect day to put the toe or the foot or our entire selves over whatever proverbial line there is, because after all, what's the worst that could happen? But that's not at all what Yom Kippur is for. That's not at all what Yom Kippur feels like. Instead, with the uncertainty and our impending own demise, we are commanded to turn inward, to be deep and contemplative, to forego tangible pleasures or even necessities like food and water or comfy shoes. So much more. It is opposite of what our human impulse tells us. And Yom Kippur, or as it's known fully in Hebrew, Yom HaKippurim, what's the opposite? Calendrically and also in terms of the feeling, it's right there in the name. Purim, next week. That's the holiday when we are supposed to sort of go wild and crazy. That's the day that we take a story where there is an identifiable threat, an actual tangible adversary, and we look at an example of how people might rise up and push back, even if the odds are stacked against them. To me, this tells us that even if there are existential threats in front of us or that might reemerge, that it's still our job to think about the past and to apply it to the future, to preserve the future, in the present, to preserve the future. And yet, on a day when we might think, the story of Yom Kippur tells me to always be clear-headed and nuanced, what is it that we instead do? Get drunk until we don't know the difference between Haman and Mordecai. It is completely opposite of what it is that we might naturally be inclined to do. This is quite a mind game that our tradition plays with us, truly. But I think it makes sense when you put all of these conflicting ideas and traditions and stories and frankly, human desires together. And then you step back and you look at it as a complete picture. Because that complete picture is a depiction of real life, really happening. If only we could segment our lives and sever ourselves into clean-cut divisions and then be able to designate that one is happy, or that one is sad, or that one is confusing, or that one is dangerous, what we would give. But that's just not how life goes. We all know that. Our ancestors knew it, and our descendants will know it. And so, like Moses and Aaron being given the wrong jobs for their natural temperaments and inclinations, I think we can also draw out from those juxtapositions that exist in our own lives how to enrich ourselves by being frank and honest and knowledgeable about all of the actions and all of the tasks that might be before us, whether we want them or enjoy them or not. Then in hard situations, we'll still be able to find ways to be joyful. As incredible as it seems, there were weddings at Auschwitz. And to the contrary of that, in moments of happiness and joyfulness, we know that we can still hold on to and honor whatever pain or despair or grief the moment might call for us individually. One final thought, and that is that this week, this Shabbat is known as Shabbat Zachor, the Shabbat of remembrance. Although we're currently still in the book of Exodus, and we won't read the book of Deuteronomy really until the summer begins, this Shabbat, we're supposed to read an additional bit to Tetzaveh, coming from the book of Deuteronomy chapter 25. It's the part about the Amalekites, the descendants of Amalek, the sworn enemy who always constantly returns, sort of like a bad movie villain. to provoke the Israelites, and to make the Jewish people's lives harder. This additional reading also contains a very profound juxtaposition. In one line, it tells us that we are to always remember the Amalekites and all that they've done to demean our existence. And in the next line, it tells us that we do this in order to blot out the name of Amalek forever. Well, which is it, rabbis? I think it's both, because being human is tough. And I would argue that being a Jewish human is even tougher. And the only way to succeed in whatever it is that we pursue is for us, again, to fully know ourselves, the world around us, and to be prepared to pick up whatever job it is that needs doing. Shabbat Shalom.
We turn to page 282 and rise for Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עצנו כגויי ארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Even in the midst of our Shabbat joy, coming to the end of a tiring, hopefully joyful week, looking ahead to a little more daylight, a little bit more sunshine, longer days, even in the midst of all of those things, which are surely something that gladden us, we still take the time to remember those who have died in recent days, weeks, months, years, and to keep them in our mind's eye, to make them prevalent and large in our hearts and our souls, to keep the memories and all of that which they have taught and bestowed upon us alive. Many of you know that our custom here at Touro Synagogue is if you hear a name with whom you're linked in family, in friendship, in love of any kind, when you hear their name, we invite you, if you wish, to rise where you're seated so we can recognize you for just a moment. As a community, we observe this period of Shiva the first 7 days following the death of Kathleen Davis. This period of Shloshim, the first 30 days, following the deaths of Hertha Rosenblum Bart, Roger O. Douglas, Eunice Patricia Davis, Oded Lifshitz, Shiri Bibas, Ariel Bibas, Kafir Bibas, Rabbi Micah Ellenson, Dr. Judith Stewart, Joseph H. Weber, and Larry Bruce Raven. And on this Shabbat, we call to mind the names of those who died at this time in years past. Rebecca Bernstein Bennett, Alfred Bernstein, Rosemary Rotman Brooks, Adele Karp Kahn, Barbara Mendelson Grimaldi, Philip Grimaldi, Sophia Schwartzbein de Gershanek, Stanley Dick, Jack Fielko, David Fleischer, Rita Fleischer, Harriet Friedman, Henrietta Goldenberg, Jeannie Goodwin, Ethel Lilly Gordon, Peggy Strauss Greenbaum, Joel Kern Handelman, Simon M. Heineman, Julia Hirsch, Esmar Kaiser, Bianca Adler Kling, Paul Kling Jr., Sigmund Coleman, Iska Brown Kohlmeyer, Marion Kopman, Louise Lowenstein-Levy, Hugh Wilson Long III, Catherine Manchester, Duke Isidore A. Marquise, Bertha L. Mayer, Jeannie Miller, Rose Fat Newhouse, Gertrude Davis Sherman, Mrs. Joseph Shushin, Louis G. Shushin, Hannah Weil, Roger G. Weil, and Molly Yodicki. If there are any other names that you'd like to call out loud, whether you rise or sit or to hold in your own heart, I invite you to do so now. Zichronam Livracha, may each and every one of their lives and memories always be a blessing. Turn to page 294 and rise as a community in support of all those who mourn and for all of those for whom there is no one left to say Kaddish. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah, Be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, B'chayechon uvyomechon u'b'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala uvizman kari v'imru amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei dekudusha b'rechu le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata dat miran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav Hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. May there be abundant peace from heaven and life for us and all of Israel, to which we say, amen. You can be seated. There's a saying when you're at rabbinical school at seminary in spring semester, Purim, Pesach, pack it up. We only have a few more months of announcements with Dr. Laura Levy as our president, which you might cheer, but we are not, because I love you so much. So I'd like to welcome Dr. Levy up for some Shabbat announcements. I'm not counting down or anything like that.
Welcome and Shabbat Shalom. Thank you to Liz Gottfried, Anna Labadie, Carol Gerson, and Gary Gerson, our greeters and community volunteers who greeted us as we came in the door tonight and who helped to ensure that we are safe and secure in our sacred space. Thank you. Thank you, dear ones, Walter and Kay, for leading us in the candle blessing and Kiddush. Thank you. Our Shabbat pulpit flowers tonight were given in memory of Jeannie Miller and Kathleen Davis by Marilyn Miller. Thank you. And in memory of Sophia Schwartz-Binder Gershanik by Anna and Juan Gershanik, their children and grandchildren. Thank you. Our live stream tonight was given in memory of Rosemary Rotman Brooks by Joni and Greg Cox. Thank you. If you are a Touro ambassador, please stand so we can see who you are. Plenty of Touro ambassadors tonight. Thank you. For new members, guests in the congregation, even longtime members, feel free to find me or any of these ambassadors after the service to say hello. We'd love to greet you personally and answer any questions you may have. I know Mardi Gras ended this week, but don't put those costumes and wigs away yet. Join us for Congregational Purim celebration this coming Thursday, March 13th. We'll celebrate the courage of Queen Esther, the resilience of our people, and the many ways this story still echoes today. There's fun for everyone, all ages. Activities for kids, an adult happy hour, costumes are encouraged. A QR code to RSVP can be found in your order of service. Please join us. And as always, all are welcome to join us for Shabbat dinner in the Grant Meyer Garden Pavilion. The dinner was given in memory of Barbara Mendelssohn Cromaldi and Philip Cromaldi by Stephen Cromaldi. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom.
And just a reminder to those of you who might find yourself here dropping off or picking up on Sunday, all of the Tuesday parades that got kicked to the weekend are coming right by us, right during religious school time, so we will not have any programming on Sunday. We'll see you back for Uptown Hebrew on Wednesday and Sunday school, Yamim Yafim next Sunday. We're going to close tonight with Olam Chesed Yibaneh. Is anyone here? Please rise.
3 Hebrew words.
Olam Chesed Yibaneh, Yadai, Dai, 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 Dai. Olam Chesed Yibaneh, Yadai, Dai, Dai, Dai. Olam Chesed Yibaneh, Yadai, Dai, Dai, Dai. Olam Chesed Yibaneh.
I will build this world from love, and you must build this world from love. And if we build this world from love, then God will build this world from love. I will build this world from love. And you must build, and you must build this world from love. If we build, and if we build this world from love, then God will build. Then God will build this world from love. Olam Chesed, Olam Chesed Yibaneh. Olam Chesed Yibaneh, Olam Chesed Yibaneh, Olam Chesed Yibaneh, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz.